full throttle. Oh, that's kind of cool. This looks very gnarly. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto. Today we're going to go take the Honda ADV 160 out on the DM Commuter test to see if this really is the best bang for your buck city mobility scooter on the market here in 2025. For those of you who are unaware that Honda even makes an adventure scooter like this, let me inform you that this is a 157cc single-cylinder motor inside of this slightly beefed up scooter platform here that Honda has obviously been making for a number of years. It used to be the ADV 160, but a few years ago Honda added a little bit more displacement out of the engine just to give it a little bit more grunt. We're going to see that come in handy when we're on the highway section. Yes, we will be taking this motorcycle on the highway today in our DM Commuter test. They've also raised it up a little bit, given it slightly beefier tires, show a fork and shocks in the rear and front, ABS on the front. They've actually even got traction control on this one if you're riding it in slippery conditions. You don't have to worry quite so much about the bike getting away from you. And it's quite a useful package as well. As we look around here, we've got proxy key, so I simply have the key in my pocket, press the little ignition button, I can turn it once, and press seat, and pop open this 20-plus gallon storage compartment that can fit most types of helmets. If you have an extra large full face, especially with a Cardo on it or something like that, you're probably gonna have some trouble. I am rocking the new Arai Contour X, and I believe it just barely fits in there if you position it right here, and I don't have my Cardo unit on it. So it's a little tight, but quick shout out to Arai, sponsor of my helmet, and a helmet that I've been quite happy with. But I've fit this quite full of groceries throughout my time with the bike. We actually fit, I think, about 2.5 12 packs of soda in there. It's about 30 cans or so. It's pretty impressive. You also have a small storage compartment up here. Right? No, right here. Oops, it's been a while. That's just pretty much enough to hold your wallet, phone, and you got a little USB charging port in there, which is kind of cool. And then you turn the ignition once more, press it, and then you can fire the bike up. So in today's test, we are going to go top off the fuel tank, this 2.1 gallon tank. We're going to go do our 42 miles of mixed riding, and then we're going to come back, fill it right back up, and see if this is the most fuel efficient motorcycle that we've tested here at DM Moto. Now typically this DM Commuter test is separate from our full review of the bike. However, we've been fleshing out this test a little bit more recently, a little bit more commentary throughout the ride rather than just doing a time lapse. And being that this is sort of a commuter motorcycle through and through, I think it's fitting for this to be the whole review of the bike as well. Now, I actually took the ADV 160 for some moderate off-roading, actually pitted it up against Honda's four-wheel product, the Passport Trail Sport. So check the link below if you want to see the little fun race I put together between this and that. But I was decently happy with how it performed off-road. And if you want a little bike to put on the back of your camper or take to campsites or something like that, I think it's a pretty good option. So we'll talk about that a little bit more throughout today as well. But let's start off by getting some fuel inside this little tank. We've got a side stand and a center stand. I'm actually going to put it up on the center stand for the fill because I want it to be as proper as possible. Press the fuel button and that pops open. We can see our little fuel cap. I even got a little spot to hold it while you're filling up the bike. I think this might be the first time I've actually put fuel in the ADV 160. Of course, just 87 octane required for this little under-stressed commuter scooter. Now, I don't recommend topping off your fuel. Oh, shit. Stupid California fuel things where you gotta pull the foreskin back here in order to fill it up. Anyway, I don't recommend topping off your fuel tank regularly. It's not good for the machine, but for the sake of science, we'll do it today so that we can replicate our fill once we get back. Okay, before starting up the engine, let's get the bike in the on position, clear out our average consumption. Right now on trip A, that's been 67 miles per gallon. Trip B, really 70 miles per gallon. We're gonna clear out trip B, I suppose. And we're ready to begin. Now, a few other things to note for the test. Outside temperature today is about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. We are right by sea level. And I have set the tire pressures to their placard, 29 PSI front and 33 PSI rear. A fairly low tire pressure for this light bike, just under 300 pounds wet and ready to ride. And that, coupled with its low center of gravity, fairly low seat height, this is a comfortable and easy bike to ride for just about any sort of rider. Also, with its smaller size, if you live in an area where lane filtering is legal, you can see how easy it is to do so. And speaking of easy, if you haven't figured it out yet, this is an automatic. It's a CVT transmission, which is technically redundant, continually variable transmission, CVT automatic, which means no clutch, no shifting, just get on and let the bike work. Now, to me, that actually takes a little bit of the excitement out of the ride, because part of the fun thing about riding motorcycles, even slow ones, is the immediacy with which you can kind of accelerate, decelerate, change speeds. When you've got a slurry automatic like this that's just got a belt, you don't feel that aggressive acceleration at all. It just simply starts going faster. You can see coming up this fairly steep hill, we are actually losing speed, holding about 50 miles per hour, just barely. And I'm going to be keeping it within about 5 miles per hour of posted speed limits for this test. Once we get to our spirited riding section, I'll speed it up a little bit if I can. That's uphill also, but other than that, we're going to kind of try to emulate a ride if you were just going into the office in the morning or heading to class, whatever you're kind of doing a normal daily ride with your bike. That's what we're trying to test here. This is a 2026 model of the ADV 160, and one of my biggest disappointments is that you can only get it in this gray, at least here in the States, for 2026. And that's a shame, because last year's model came in a really cool, classic Honda kind of candy red looking color. I very much liked that. I think they also had a sort of a grayish blue you could get. But now it's just this gray. I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, it's handsome, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just boring to me. Now, I do suspect that this bike stands to potentially be the most fuel-efficient motorcycle we've ever tested on the DM Commuter test. Well, that being said, it does peak at 69 miles per hour indicated on the highway. It's governed there. So, technically speaking, we are going to be running a little bit slower on the highway than we do with most bikes. Most bikes I try to do about 70 to 72 miles per hour on the highway, but this is just barely going to be getting up there, and we'll probably have to be doing a little bit of drafting, sticking around in the right few lanes on the highway in order to keep up that speed. So that part might be a little less fair, if you will, compared to some of the other bikes we've tested. Being that there is no clutch on the ADV 160, you've got hand controls for both of your brakes. Very easy to ride if you're somebody who's familiar with bicycles. Also a pretty useful little display in front of us here. It's not the easiest to see. It's a very simple LCD display, but it is giving you your clock, digital speed, analog style tachometer, fuel gauge down at the bottom, and then 3 customizable information screens. When we're stopped at a light, we'll be able to go through and tell you all the info you can see there. But having an outside temperature readout is actually pretty darn cool at this price point. I've ridden, Honda's own Hornet 1000 doesn't have an outside ambient temperature readout. That's a, $12,000 bike? So cool to have it here in this $5,000 ADV 160. We've got a 2-stage adjustable windscreen as well. You can pull these out and then lift the windscreen up like that. We'll see what sort of difference that makes throughout the ride. Then down here with this little 4-way adjustable button, you got your trip, traction control, odometer on the bottom, average fuel, elapsed time, and instant fuel readout on the middle, and then outside temperature and battery voltage up there. Again, I like how much they've done with the screen. And admittedly, I'm okay with the fact that it's kind of an unattractive, simple screen right there. But yeah, it still provides useful info. A little cloudy today out on PCH, but still a gorgeous view. Like getting up to 60 miles per hour with a little bit of help from this downhill. Let's see what we come back to coming up. Let's see, 67. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and I'm about 170 pounds, about 5'10". Yeah, it can hold 55 mile per hour roads pretty confidently, but once you start getting much above that, you're gonna have trouble if you're dealing with elevation. That man is unicycling. Straight up unicycling on the side of the road. It is one way to live life. This will be an interesting lane filter. We've got a box truck, narrow Laguna Beach road. Fortunately, the mirrors are up and in on the ADV 160, but that up can often get you in trouble with people's outside mirrors. So we're going to see right here. Looks like we are perfect right there. And bada bing, bada boom. There we go. If you're thinking of commuting on something like the ADV 160, you can see how much more quickly you can get through little city areas like this without necessarily speeding. Beautiful day at the beach. Ooh, some nice waves coming in. 76 degrees, actually a little bit warmer than I expected here on the coast. I don't know. This SQ5 is over pretty far. Also, this RAV4. Come on. Alright, you're just not going to go. Okay. Obviously, right here where the ADV 160 is meant to shine. Back city environment thing. Theoretically more suspension travel than the normal scooters, but you still get thrown around a bit. 3rd Street hill test. Torquey enough to be accelerating past 20 miles per hour up 3rd Street. I think that's where that little bit of extra displacement is helping out the 160 as well, as these kind of lower speed environments, especially if you had passenger on the back or if you were a larger rider. Being able to just have a little bit more twist to help you get up and out of the way of vehicles or pedestrians or whatever you're running around in the city. Very nice, easy to modulate brakes. Squeeze them hard, the scooter comes right to a stop, but not on and off either. Good progression. Is that kid just itching his butt? Sure looked like it. I suspect this CX-5 is going to impede our hill climb section. We might give him a little bit of a gap. Here we go, from the stop. Let's see what we can do. Having that little bit of extra lift on the ADV 160 does allow you to lean it over just that bit more before you start to scrape. Let's see if we can get any scraping on these corners. Are scrubbing off some speed coming up here. Full tilt. Staying above the speed limit though, so that's something. But only just. See? No scraping even with this lean. There we go. There's a little bit. Yeah, you'd be having some trouble getting up here if you were doubled up on this thing. You would do it, but you'd be pushing it, that's for sure. Getting ready to turn off the coast and thus conclude our slower speeds, more city type riding portion of the DM Commute. And according to the bike, we're looking at 78 miles per gallon. Very impressive figure. I predict that'll go down a little bit here as we do more of the 50 to 55 mile an hour road section, and then very likely get down back into the 60s on the highway portion. But it's possible it'll hold on, so we'll see what happens here. About 2/3 of the way through the drive, or ride I suppose. Comfort is fine. I do like to sit, oh man, we're not gonna make that, I was hoping we would. I do like to sit further back on the seat than it sort of allows me to. I'm hitting the passenger hump quite a bit, so that's unfortunate. Also, when you do come to a stop, if you're someone who likes to just put one leg down, keep another leg on the bike, because of the fairly wide seat, you do have to be a little bit taller in order to get that foot down. It's not bad, but if you split both of them, then, I mean, even me at 5'10", 32-inch inseam, I'm kind of on my toes on both sides. It's just a wide seat, so something to keep in mind. That seat height itself isn't the only determining factor of how easy you're going to be able to touch the ground. Seems like a good opportunity to drop in some of our coverage from off-roading the ADV 160. I had it out on some of our off-road testing, like I said, did a little comparison, just fun race ride with the Honda Passport Trail Sport, and I was pretty happy with how it did out there. Let's go play around. Automatic, so you simply twist your wrist. Now, obviously, being a scooter, you're not going to be able to stand up very easily. So once the bumps get really rough, that's where this is going to struggle a little bit. I could also see it struggling a little with torquiness from the CVT. It's a very smooth transmission, but I'll be interested to see how it handles something like a steeper hill. Let's test out the brakes real quick. Rear on the left. All right, lock that up. How about rear on the front? And there's our ABS kicking in. So can't disable that, at least without maybe pulling a fuse or something. But pretty good stopping ability so far on the dirt. Something to keep in mind is if you plan on taking your ADV 160 off-road as opposed to something like a CRF or maybe something like the Trail 125, there's a lot of plastic to get beaten up and scratched on this, and probably isn't super expensive to replace. And if you're okay with that patina, then by all means send it away, but something to keep in mind compared to something like a dirt bike that's going to have $15 or $20 pieces of plastic as opposed to these larger sections. But I'm curious about this bike because I could see somebody, including myself, using it as something like a little campground runaround bike. Let's put it on the back of a camper. It's really not that heavy. It's very easy to load up. It's easy for anybody to ride. You could give this to some kids, allegedly, or a spouse, or someone who's not super familiar with riding dirt bikes or motorcycles, but can get on and twist their wrist, kind of like a bicycle, if you will. I had this on a hitch carrier on the Passport coming out here. It was very easy to load up, strap up, and then take off. Woo, okay, a little bit of washout right there. Caught it though. But yeah, I'm actually pretty satisfied so far with how it's taken these bumps. I mean, this is a fairly average dirt road. Kind of washboarded here. I'm really not getting jerked around too bad. Dare I say I might be having a little bit of fun even. All right, let's try getting a little bit gnarlier here. Why not? Why not us? Oh. You kind of can stand up. You're just like a little bit in this awkward kind of crouched position, leaning forward because your feet can't go fully under you. But if you came up to a really big bump or something, you could elevate yourself just to kind of get over it. You just can't really stand and ride long term. Ooh, a jump. Should we do it? Should we do the jump? We'll do it at a very ADV 160 friendly pace. How about that? Banking it. Oh, big whoops, big whoops. Okay. Oh. Whee. Oh, shit. Sorry, Honda. So ground clearance, obviously going to be another one of your issues with the 160. But I have to say, I am not mad about the suspension performance so far. And at the end of the day, they call this ADV, which is adventure. It's not performance. It's not motocross. But it is true that I have been able to adventure a little bit on some of these trails that I haven't gone on before. Now this will be interesting. This is pretty steep. Let's see what happens. Oh, getting some washout. But CVT actually doing better than I expected. Oh, wow. A little 10 pound-feet of torque, putting in some work. Nicely done. Okay, I wonder if we can climb up this. Oh, steering angle also really good on the 160. This is really steep. Let's see what happens. Full throttle. Oh, that's kind of cool. Now, how about going down? Down might be the sketchier part. Nice and easy. A lot of back brake. Traction's pretty good with these tires. It's pretty good. Wow, okay. I guess the CVT might feel kind of quick to someone who's not used to riding motorcycles. You know, if you're giving this to someone a little younger, a little first-timer, just kind of to putz around and have fun with, it's going to feel strong. It just doesn't have that snappiness of something with a direct connection. This looks very gnarly. All right, we're gonna need to cross over. Ooh. Again, low seat height, I'm walking it. Can we make it up this hill in front of us? I don't know. Looks pretty gnarly. Brakes are doing a great job. All right, let's go a little 160. Whoa! Big rock. Woo! Nicely done. Okay, I am fully confident now that anything that anyone from a novice to borderline expert wants to throw at the ADV 160, it's going to do it surprisingly well. Whew. What about this? A little disembarkment here. I've actually been impressed with the torque. Like I said, that was what I was worried about, torque and traction, but so far both seem to be quite okay. So if you want to see more off-roading, check the link below. I'll throw the little combo race between the Passport and this. But we're gonna head, get this thing loaded back up here in a little bit, and then head back onto the city streets where most people are gonna be putting their ADV 160 to work. So I think you can see, I mean, if you are somebody who wants and or needs to use a bike like this in more of an off-road setting, the fact that you got the automatic, you've got the little bit of torque there, and you've got the low bike and fairly light bike, you can actually do a surprising bit with this machine, given the parts and the cost. And for me, that's why this motorcycle makes a lot of sense as something that you're going to use, at least here in the United States, as something like a campground bike, something that anybody could just hop onto if you're not on legal roads and you want to let a younger child ride it or something like that. You know, somebody who's capable and smart enough, but maybe not quite legal to ride on the roads, they could ride it around a campground or something like that. It's just a very versatile, usable, easy platform. Oh my gosh, today I have seen an orange Kia Stinger and a yellow Kia Stinger. That's awesome. I was just talking about the other day, someone in the comments on the Daily Motor was thinking about getting a Stinger. I said, you can get an orange or a yellow one, really stand out. That's cool. So I have done highway with the ADV 160. It's not ideal, but if you do have a commute that requires or at least strongly encourages a little bit of highway riding in order to make it work best, then you can do it. That's the most important thing. Some people freak out about taking a little displacement lightweight bike like this on the highway, and even on something like the 5 freeway here in Southern California, you gotta remember there's a lot of cars that do the speed limit or less in the right few lanes. So theoretically, we should be fine to do that. So here we go, full tilt. Tuck it in, off we go. Hopefully y'all can hear me okay. If not, I'll wrap up some of our thoughts when I get off the highway. So here we are, getting up to that 69 miles per hour. Like I said, I've never seen more than that. I think we're at the top of our transmission. We're running this thing right into the red line, actually. I mean, if there's any manufacturer that I'd be okay with running on the red line for a while, it's a Honda, but still probably not the easiest Honda CVT or the little single-cylinder engine. But one thing I do like is, unlike the W230 from Kawasaki that we had on this test last weekend, this doesn't hit the speed governor and then cut the revs, cut the ignition. It just simply stops going any faster. So you can hold it right there at the very tippy top and not be bouncing back and forth the way we were on the Kawasaki. Even without drafting anybody here, keeping up with that 69 mile per hour mark, I assume that's gonna fall a little once we start creeping on this uphill. But like I said, you can do it. It's not great, but you can do it. And with this windshield, it's blocking wind right about to below my neck, so I'm not getting pushed around too badly. The bike's pretty stable. So as I said, we were a few miles per hour below what we typically run that section on, but totally satisfactory there, cruising on the highway. Now, again, if I owned this bike, would I want to be ringing it out at 10,000 RPM right above redline regularly and for a long time? No. But I do respect and appreciate that Honda at least gives us that option, because as so many of us here in especially the western part of the United States know, sometimes it just makes so much more sense to be able to hop on the highway. In fact, there's a stretch here, if you're going out of Orange County into Riverside County, you have to get on the freeway. You have to get on the 91. You don't have an option. So to be able to at least dip on there, stay in the right few lanes, and get back off when you need to, nice to be able to do that here. And our fuel economy indicated actually stayed higher than I expected, 71.5 on our dash. We just got a last little bit here to get back to the fuel pump and top it off. But wrapping up the test, I'm really happy with the bike. I mean, it's something that I'm still comfortable on. A lot of different places to put my feet, put my butt. Like I said, for my size and preferred riding position, I would like to be able to scoot back in the seat a little bit more. But it's such an easy motorcycle to ride. It's got so much functionality. I could see more point in buying this over something like the Super Cub, absolutely. I mean, the Super Cub is cool from a retro standpoint, but the bike's got virtually no storage. It's slower, it's less usable, it's going to cost you just about as much. In just about every situation other than looking cool, would like to have the ADV 160 over the Super Cub. And I think with this ADV model, it kind of makes more sense than the Trail 125 in a lot of aspects as well. The only thing I see is that if you're going to ride in environments where you're very likely to have spills, then the ADV the Trail 125 makes more sense because it's going to be more durable with its metal exposure. But if you're somebody who plans on keeping the shiny side up regularly and just wants something to use around town, around home, around campsites, what have it, I think the the ADV 160 makes a lot more sense than the Trail 125. There we are, ending our test at 71.4 indicated. Let's get this back up on the center stand, top it off again, and do some final calculations. 0.585, that's awesome. We use our little side case here for putting our gloves in for our last little bit. So there we are, wrapping up 42.9 miles of DM commuting. Hey, it makes a lot of sense that a commuting focused scooter would do so well on the ride. But let's get to crunching our final fuel economy numbers. Will this be the most fuel efficient bike we've tested here at DM? We've got 42.9 miles traveled divided by that 0.585, giving us 73 miles per gallon here on the Honda ADV 160. Now, if I remember correctly, that comes out to right about the same as the Honda XR 150L, essentially rounding difference. I think that was like 72 or 73. So right on up there, makes a lot of sense that one little cylinder buzzing away, lightweight option here, giving you some good fuel economy. And Honda's giving you a 2.1 gallon fuel tank, so 2.1 times that 73 miles per gallon. It's giving you about 150 miles between fill-ups here on the ADV 160. And if you plan on just riding around town, getting to and from work or class or something like that, you're going to be able to go a long time without putting fuel in the tank. So again, I like the bike. I really do. It's less exciting than I expected it to be. So if you're somebody who does crave that kind of the snappiness of something like a bike, like a motorcycle, you're not really going to get that too much here. I don't get thrill from riding this bike. And it's not just because it's low powered, but again, it's because of that automatic transmission. It just doesn't give you the snappiness that even something like a Honda Grom would. So if you're just looking for something to get yourself around point A to point B as simply and cost effectively as possible from Honda, you've got the Honda Navi. That thing costs a lot less. It's going to go similar-ish speeds. Not going to be able to do the highway, but you can get around town just fine. You're going to pay a lot less for it, and it's going to be more fun to ride. Then you've got the Mini Motos, the Grom, the Monkey, the Dax, everything. Those are going to be also more fun to ride, cost a little bit less, but not quite be able to do the highway. I see the ADV 160 making most sense for someone who needs to do a little bit of highway riding, who wants the conveniences of the features of the adjustable windscreen, the charge port, the big under-seat storage. Maybe they want to throw somebody on the back from time to time. They need to do a little bit of highway riding from time to time. And just the ease of firing it up, throwing it off the center stand or something, and riding away. And then also being the ADV model, having a little bit more off-road capability, I see that older person or someone putting it on the back of a camper or a truck to be able to just roll it off the carrier like I did when I had it on the back of the Passport, fire it up, and putz around. I definitely like that aspect of it. So Honda's got a lot of options on two wheels. They certainly do. And I'm glad that this one exists. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the bike, check the link below. We've got our No Talking Winding Road Sunset Ride if you want to see that. And then on the little fun race against the Honda Passport. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto. And as always, ride on.